The roar of an ATV shattered the morning calm, its engine snarling like a chainsaw as it tore down my gravel road, kicking up rocks that pinged off my truck. One of my sanctuary volunteers dove into the bushes to avoid the spray. I rushed outside, coffee splashing over my boots, just in time to see Linda, the new HOA president, barreling through my private road like she was starring in an action movie. 3 more ATVs trailed her, their riders whooping and laughing, leaving a cloud of dust and arrogance in their wake. My gate hung open, its lock snapped, the chain dangling uselessly. That was the moment I knew my quiet wildlife sanctuary wasn't under attack by poachers or predators, but by something far worse, a suburban tyrant with an HOA badge and an ego to match. My name's Tom. After years in military logistics and wildlife conservation overseas, I bought a slice of land just outside a gated HOA community in rural Virginia, thinking it'd be the perfect spot for peace, alligator research, and maybe a weekend barbecue. My property came with a private gravel road, legally deeded, that I maintained myself. It wound through the woods and led straight to my sanctuary. Nobody used it. Nobody cared. Until Linda moved in. Linda wasn't her real name, but it suited her better than her flashy designer sunglasses. She swept into the HOA presidency like she'd been crowned ruler of a small kingdom. On her first day, she marched up to my back gate, not the front, mind you, and demanded a key to monitor communal boundaries. I politely declined, handing her a copy of my deed. She stared at it like I'd given her a grocery list, muttered something about her lawyer, and stormed off. That was just the start. At first, it was petty jabs. She'd walk her yappy dog along the HOA fence and shout, "Still hoarding alligators, Tom?" Then came fake citations taped to my mailbox, noise complaints for frog croaks, illegal tree growth, even unauthorized night activity. I called the county, and they laughed. Her notices had no legal weight. I figured she'd tire out. She didn't. Soon, her bright red ATV appeared, roaring like a monster truck. She treated my road like her personal racetrack, using it as a shortcut to hiking trails behind my land. I caught her once, halfway down the path, and waved her down. She stopped, helmet under her arm, sunglasses perched on her head like she was selling beachfront condos. I explained, again, that the road was private. She smirked, revved her engine, and said, "Looks public to me. Get better signs." So I did. I added signs, double locks, even a motion-activated gate arm. For 3 days, it worked. Then I woke to find the arm ripped off and tire tracks gouged into the dirt. My sanctuary manager, Sarah, shook her head. She's turning this into her private dirt park. The breaking point came when I found a young alligator, one we just rescued, trembling near a torn fence. Linda's joyrides had spooked it into trying to escape. That animal had suffered enough. I called her that night, calm but firm, and warned her I'd pursue legal action. She laughed. "It's just a road, Tom. Don't be dramatic." 2 days later, an HOA letter arrived, claiming my road was a shared easement. It was nonsense, with no legal backing, but it showed she wasn't backing down. I'd had enough. In my military days, I designed tactical zones and jungles. I knew how to build barriers that didn't look like barriers. I had permits for a wildlife water retention trench, a legal project to support the ecosystem. What Linda didn't know was that this trench would cross my road, just deep enough to stop her ATV. I also arranged to relocate 2 healthy alligators from an overcrowded conservation site to my sanctuary. The trench would be their new home, monitored, protected, and right in Linda's path. I filed environmental assessments, installed low-voltage perimeter markers disguised as landscaping, and made the trench look like a serene pond. To anyone else, it was a glorified water feature. To Linda, it'd be a wake-up call. She kept pushing, her ATV tires grazing my trench stakes despite new signs. I overheard her bragging to friends about taming the wild guy next door. I smiled. She'd soon meet the real wild ones. The final trespass came at dawn. Linda and 3 ATVs roared through my reinforced gate, its chain cut clean. The noise sent birds scattering. Sarah and I scrambled to calm the animals. Linda didn't stop, dragging a folding chair behind her ATV like a trophy, her smirk visible even through the dust. She didn't know the trench was done. In 72 hours, it'd be an alligator habitat, legal, unavoidable, and her worst nightmare. 3 days later, I stood by the road with a measuring tape and blueprints. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about protecting my life's work. The trench had to be perfect, 25 feet across the road's narrowest point, 10 feet wide, 6 feet deep. I called it a water retention habitat, to keep nosy HOA eyes at bay. My old military buddy, Mike, an environmental engineer, arrived to help. He laughed when I explained the plan. Boots and duct tape, I'm in. We dug the trench under the guise of landscaping, lined it with rock and pond soil, and used Mike's drone to monitor progress. Linda patrolled daily, shouting across the fence, building a bridge. Tom, my ATV hates potholes. I waved back. You'll love what's coming. The alligators arrived at dawn, sliding into the water like silent sentinels. By noon, the trench looked like a pond, complete with floating logs and warning signs. Linda couldn't resist. Less than 24 hours later, her ATV roared down the road. My phone buzzed, motion detected. The camera showed Linda, full throttle, heading for the trench. I watched from my porch as she hit the muddy slope, her ATV skidding sideways. She screamed, tumbling off, her sunglasses splashing into the water. The alligators stirred, one gliding closer, eyes locked on her. Her two HOA buddies, Jim and Carol, froze. Jim yelled, "Linda, don't move." Carol backed her ATV away, trembling. Linda scrambled up the slope, soaked by motion-triggered sprinklers, looking like a drowned rat in designer gear. I walked down, arms folded. "What is this?" she shrieked. "You could have killed me." I pointed to the signs. "It's a permitted conservation trench with protected species. You trespassed." She sputtered, "Crocodiles in a road? Outrageous." I corrected her. "It's a sanctuary extension on my land." I showed her the footage of her breaking in. "That's illegal surveillance," she cried. "It's security," I said, shared with the Wildlife Division. Her ATV wouldn't start. Jim and Carol helped her limp away, covered in mud and shame. I posted the footage to a private conservation group, and it went viral. Headlines read, "HOA tyrant humbled by alligators." The county praised my sanctuary, launched an inquiry into the HOA, and suspended Linda. Neighbors, once silent, now supported me. Kids visited to learn about alligators, and the trench became a local attraction. Linda didn't stop. A week later, Sarah heard she was plotting to reclaim the road. At 2:38 a.m., sensors caught her sneaking along my fence, cutting zip ties on a side gate. She and two men were building a plywood bridge over the trench. I called the sheriff. As they worked, an alligator surfaced, watching. When the sensor lights blazed on, Linda saw its eyes and froze. One man fled, the other begged her to leave. The deputies arrived, arresting her for trespassing, vandalism, and endangerment. The footage sealed her fate. The HOA ousted Linda. She moved away, her house sold with a note about the peaceful wildlife preserve next door. My sanctuary thrived, drawing students, grants, and even a celebrity donation. Neighbors became friends, hosting Croc Talk events. Mike visited, amazed. "You rewrote the neighborhood," he said. The trench wasn't just a barrier. It was a symbol of coexistence, proving nature could set boundaries no HOA could ignore. I stood by the trench one evening, the air filled with frog calls and the soft ripple of water. The alligators glided silently, guardians of a hard-won peace. Linda's reign was a distant memory, replaced by respect and understanding. I didn't win by shouting louder. I won by letting the land speak clearly, fiercely, undeniably. What do you think? Was I justified in using nature to protect my land? Or did I go too far? Have you faced injustice or overreach in your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective on standing up to bullies and defending what's yours.